Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So today I want to speak about Space Marine 2. Now you're probably going to say to yourself, Valrak, you are insane, there is no Space Marine 2. But you'd be surprised to know that there was an actual story in the works for Space Marine 2, which of course never got published out because the studio went bankrupt and the first game never really moved as much product as they expected, but we'll probably get into all that later. What I want to do now is speak about Space Marine 2 and maybe if there is an inkling of hope in the future that a studio will take on and actually make a sequel to this great, fantastic game. So let's jump in and let's get started. Okay, before I actually jump in and start discussing Space Marine 2, I just want to sum up Space Marine 1's story so everyone's on the same track. If you haven't played the original Space Marine game, please stop the video, go and buy it. It's probably really cheap at the moment, and go and play the game because it is amazing. It's probably one of the best Warhammer 40k games that you'll ever play in your life. It really is that good. I'm not hyping it. It really is a good game. So the plot involves a Orc War invading a Forge World. Now this Forge World mainly is in the production of Titans, Warlord Titans. So the strategic value of this planet is very much wanted for the Imperium. So they put out a distress call. The Ultramarines answer, and the Ultramarines arrive, and it's basically you're an Ultramarine and you're fighting against the Orcs on the planet to take it back. You play as Captain Titus, second. I think he's this. Yeah, he's the captain of the second company of the Ultramarines, and you have a squad, but the squad is two NPCs. You have a veteran sergeant Sidonus, who is this really cool like veteran badass guy, and you have like a newly inducted Ultramarine guy called Leonardus, who basically does everything by the book. He's he interprets everything from the Codex Astartes. He's as plain as they come, good old Leandros, but we'll get into him more later on. So you're fighting through this planet, and you receive a distress call from an Inquisitor who is also on this planet. He's trapped, the Orcs have cut him off. He's working on this special weapon which he hopes that would destroy the Orc War. So you go and find this Inquisitor, you help him recover the weapon. One thing leads to another. Basically the weapon is this kind of warp device, yeah, and it's I don't really want to ruin this, but there's a huge twist and chaos come on the planet, and it's basically you're fighting chaos and orcs. Chaos are like the main bad guys in this. One thing leads to another. You end up killing the Chaos Warlord, but since you have possession of this weapon, which is very chaosly tainted, and you use it to destroy the actual Chaos Warlord, good old Leandros reports you to the Inquisition, who have also arrived on the planet at the end, and they take Captain Titus into custody, and that is the end. That is it. That is it. Game over. It ends on that. And for most of us, we were like, oh wow, yeah, that's an awesome ending, and we can't wait for the next game. And we were waiting, we were waiting, we were waiting, and THQ went bankrupt, and boom, we had no sequel at all. Now, according to the game's director, I hope I'm going to pronounce this chap's name right, Van Lyrop. Hopefully that is pronounced right. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that name. They had big plans for Space Marine. They had really big plans for the Space Marine franchise. They wanted to make it into a trilogy, he stated, but quoting him from an article that he spoke about back in 2013, I'll also post this in the description as well of the video if anyone wants to go and read it for themselves. Here it says here, sadly THQ was already starting to fall apart by the end, and it became clear that Space Marine 2 wasn't going to happen. I was pretty heartbroken about that. Now what he's referring to is that THQ had some huge financial issues. They basically went bankrupt. They invested all their cash into this product. If I remember right, it was like a handheld sketch product or something, and it basically failed. So everything else which was being worked on the studio and the successor studio surrounding them just died. It just went, just got completely wiped out. So that affected, of course, Space Marine 2, and it also affected another game which I was really hyped for, which was Dark Millennium Online. That was being produced by Vigil Game Studios, but it was their parent company was THQ. So when THQ went bankrupt, so did Vigil go out of business, and that means Dark Millennium Online went out of business as well. I'll probably do a video later on down the line for Dark Millennium Online if anyone wants to do that, but again, we can do that another time. So the big question is, what would happen in Space Marine 2? Now, I must add that this story was a 3-part story. So you had Space Marine 1 with a Forge World, Space Marine 2, which we're going to discuss, and Space Marine 3, which is the ending and everything that happens in that game. So this was split up into 3 parts. Of course, we only get 1 part. Hopefully, maybe in the future, we'll get the both parts. So part 2, Space Marine 2, would focus on Titus going rogue. That is the main point of Space Marine 2. Titus has been taken away by the Inquisition. They're investigating his heresy. What he wants to do, he wants to prove his innocence. He is not a heretic at all. He's not a heretic at all, but there is certain people going against him, saying he is a heretic because he used this warp device. So Space Marine 2 is basically him going against those of his accusers and proving his innocence. Now, the funny thing about this is that he goes rogue. Now, for me, if I want to prove my innocence, I wouldn't. The last thing I want to do is try and go rogue, especially in 40k. That sounds a bit far-fetched for me. A Space Marine going rogue in 40k. First thing is, I just can't see how that would happen. For to go rogue, you have to get a ship. To get a ship, it's not like you can just jump in and fly a ship on your own. Is it a stash? Yeah, it's a bit confusing, but I haven't got the full story. So it's basically there were forces arrayed against him that would see his loyalty to the Adeptus Astartes pushed to its limits. So Titus is at breaking point now in Space Marine 2. He's basically if this is the right way for me to go. So really, in a way, they're kind of pushing him to be a heretic or to be a traitor, because they're questioning his loyalty, which I find kind of funny. And of course, then this all leads into the sequel to Space Marine 2, which is Space Marine 3. Now, the story for Space Marine 3 is, I would personally say it's quite daring. In this article, he goes into detail. He says, so this is actually the Space Marine 3 story. He would survive and come back even stronger in the 3rd game, where other Space Marines still loyal to him would rally around him, and he'd return to Clean House. Now, Clean House is in those little air quotes, but at the head of a brand new chapter that he would build around him. Now, when I first read this, I was like, oh, okay. It seems cool. It seems cool, but on paper, would that really work? Now, if I'm not mistaken, if you create a brand new chapter, firstly, you have to get the High Lords of Terror to sign off of it, sign off on that, and that's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of back and forth with that, especially so if you've just been accused of being a heretic. I don't know how that would even go down. And then secondly, it's building your chapter up. Now, you don't just say, oh, okay, here's 1,000 Marines. That doesn't work. You have to basically train new Marines. You have to get a big chunk of Marines to really join you. You can't just turn up with 20 guys and say, hey, we're a new chapter now. It doesn't work like that. You have to build up your companies and your chapter strength properly before all that stuff gets put into place. So I can't really see him just turning up a week later after his trial as a chapter master of a brand new chapter, and he has 1,000 Marines under his command. I can't really see how that would work. Firstly, like I said, it's all the paperwork involved in making a new chapter, and where would he get all these Marines from? He can't really take a big chunk of Marines from the Ultramarines who are still loyal to him, because then that would leave the Ultramarines underpowered with their chapter. And that won't be his intentions, to make his parent chapter, where he served most of his life, to be under strength and take away from their fighting force. So yeah, that really, I'm not too sure about him coming back and forming a chapter. I personally would like him just to come back and be put back as second company captain again, and he air quotes cleans house, doing that stuff as an Ultramarine guy. He doesn't really have to come back as a chapter master. I think that's just a little bit Hollywoodish and a little bit cheesy on the main part. I'd just prefer him to just come back as a normal Captain Titus second company captain and do what he has to do doing that. And I think that's some justice then as well, because he's put back there. You know, he's proved that he's loyal. He's proved that what he did was justified, and he's basically put back then as the company captain. Hey, maybe he's put like first company captain or something like that. You know, maybe he's made chapter master of the Ultramarines, let's say, because I know this is all set like in a different timeline or different storyline, because I know this is not canon. So you could probably just make him chapter master of the Ultramarines, just kick Marius Calgar out of a door or something, and just make this guy chapter master of the Ultramarines. Problem solved. There we go. Instead of making a brand new chapter, which makes little to no sense. Now you're probably wondering, why am I making a video on a game which is basically dead? Of course, yeah, right. It's more or less dead, but it's a fun game. It's an amazing game. Like I said, go and play it. You will not regret it. Amazing game. For all intent purposes, I would have loved the story to be made, even though it sounds a bit corny, cheesy in some areas. I would have loved them to keep going with these games and give me more content to play as Titus and purge away as an Ultramarine / new chapter master. Let's call his new chapter the Sons of Valrak, since I'm sure he would have been a fan. But the main focus for this video is that there was an article by a chap called Kyle McGregor over on Destructoid, again link in the description of the video, and he speaks to Relic about Space Marine, and the title for this is what dragged me in. It says, Relic has a hunger for more Space Marine, but a sequel seems unlikely at this point. Now, of course, this is not saying that this game's definitely gonna get a sequel, but it's on their radar, and that's all I want at this stage, is that this game to blip on their radar. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna quickly go through the article and give some thoughts and feedback, and hopefully, maybe in the near future, not THQ, Relic will jump on the horse of Space Marine and ride that thing to the finish line and give us the sequel that most of us have been waiting for so many years. So let's jump in and let's take a quick look at this article. So the article kind of starts off with him speaking about Warhammer Space Marine, about you know, THQ failing, the sales expectations weren't met, all that kind of stuff that we've already spoke about. He goes into more detail about Relic is more focused on making RTS games at the moment at their stage, but right here it says, I couldn't help ask Relic if there were any desire to make something different, like say a new Space Marine game, while he was visiting the team's office to see Dawn of War 3. So this was about the time of Dawn of War 3 was like more or less coming out. He basically went there and said, hey, I know you're doing Dawn of War 3. What about Space Marine? Do you guys plan to do anything different? Say something like that. And the response he got is something that really interests me. So the chap called Brent Dispro said, there's a bunch of love for a potential sequel. A lot of people on my team worked on Space Marine, had a great time making it, and want to do it. Of course, wanting and doing something are two completely different things. I could want something doesn't mean I'm ever going to get it. So who knows, maybe in the future it's out there, but the wording in this article, it gets my spider senses tingling. There's a quote here where he says, while he was quick to say Space Marine 2 isn't in the works at present. Now, the first thing that popped out for me there is, isn't in the works at present. So does that mean that it will be in the works in future? I know they're not working it right now, but it's more or less in the pipeline and they want us to do work on it, or they got to be working on it, but they're just not working on it at this moment in time. This is probably seems just clutching at straws at the moment. I know I'm just going down every route I possibly can, but like I said, the wording in this article has got me very, very, very excited. Of course, one of the big issues about all of this, right, is that it's Relic who's making this, and there's a lot of negativity about the recent 40k game they made, which is Dawn of War 3. I'm not going to go into that landslide in this video. This is going to be Space Marine 2. But I would love to know your chaps' reaction if the studio that made Dawn of War 3 decided to make Space Marine 2. How would you feel about that? Would you want that from the studio that made Dawn of War 3, or would you prefer another studio to come in and take the mantle of Space Marine 2 and let them have a shot? Remember that most of the people who worked on the Space Marine game are in the Relic studio now, and they worked on Dawn of War 3. So take that into consideration if you want to discuss that. But again, please, I would love to get some feedback on that from you chaps. Maybe should we even have a Space Marine 2? Is it time now to just drop Space Marine as a series and just start a brand new franchise of 40k games? Maybe not based around Space Marines, maybe based, I don't know, on a Xenos race, a guardsman. Maybe you can play as Kitten from the text-to-speech series. I would love to play as a semi-naked custodian going around the Imperial Palace, greasing myself up. I don't know about you guys, but that is like full-on simulator for me. I would very much enjoy that. I would very much enjoy that that experience coming from a computer game. Alright chaps, that is me done for another video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know it's basically just been me just fanboying and hoping for the best. Hope. That's what you have to have, and you know, when you're a gamer like me, or you know, with games like this, just have hope. If it gets made, then the Emperor's blessed us. If it doesn't, then chaos is here and we should burn everything to the ground. So either way, I win. But yeah, thank you for watching the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've had a good one. Hey, please, Relic, if you're watching this, or any other company, we want Space Marine. We want it. Please, just give us the game that we all deserve. Please, I beg you. Please, just give us a 40k game which we can be proud of, so we can go to other people and say, hey, look at this 40k game. It's amazing. It slaps your game in the face, heretic. That's all I want. That's all I want. I just want a 40k game of epicness. So please, someone do it. Right, see ya. Have a good one and enjoy the rest of your week, chaps. See you now, and bye bye.